I just want to introduce the board members. I did already introduce Laura, who's the vice president, the one who does all the work. Sitting next to her is Tony Risotto, who is our treasurer. Now, Bruce Donald right here is leaving our board, and we'll talk more about that later, but he has been on the board forever, also a former chair. Norm Berg is back there. He is our secretary. Also in charge of answering our Google phone calls. He is also involved with the Southern group that, we're sort of the northern part of the trail, Plainville North, and then the Southern group is Plainville South. And so luckily we have Norm. He hits both. He's on both boards, which is great for us. And then we have Joy, who's in the back there. Joy Himmelman is our media specialist and our IT person. We have our other IT person who's standing there with the slide machine is Tim Bowen. I saw Dave Kincaid, he's back there. He is our kiosk person. So if you have worked with our kiosk. Alan Bladerstein is right there. He's a newer member of the board, but he also represents some of the towns and is helping out with the IT. When I say IT, the website and that kind of stuff. I like to tell people I'm a Luddite, so I don't have to know what that stuff is. And then we have the person who did all the food tonight, who's standing up, perfect timing, Diana Moody. Now, way back is Amy Watkins, who is also involved with Watch for Me, which is does safety. She is our safety person. She also is the person who has been helping out with putting benches on the trail, the memorial benches. She is the one been doing all that work. Then we have Dwight Weed, who is sitting right there. Dwight is another former president, longtime member. And then we have Ron I'm sorry, I'm screwing up people's names. Hi, Ron Gorolaski. I'm sorry, but he's a new member, and one day I will learn how to pronounce his name. So those are our board members. We are always interested in people to help us out with the board, and so we have Anne, who is there, who does a lot with our, right in the middle of a drink. Sorry. She is very helpful with our membership and keeping communications and letting us know who is applying for membership. Because remember, we are a group, our function is to advocate for the trail. We are, at this point, we've done a pretty damn good job, I would say. We have the trail pretty much done from Farmington up to the Massachusetts border. We still have Plainville. We're still working on Plainville, and Bruce is going to give us all sorts of information on that. But it is, we rely on our members and the dues money that you pay or the donations you pay, because we then take that money and offer it to the towns to help pave with maintenance and support of the trail. So, in a budgetary time when the towns don't have the money to do the maintenance that we think they should, we try to be of a little assistance so that they can get that job done. Now, as I said, we actually have two people that we are saying goodbye to at this meeting. One is Bruce, and Bruce, we have a lovely article about you, and we'll do more about you, but I have a gift for you, and that Laura has for you. This is just, we like to honor the people who have been helpful for such a long time, so we give them I think, a pretty beautiful photo of the trail. Diana was the one who picked it out a long time ago and does all the work. So, but it's a thank you. And he is staying on the board ex officio, so we're not losing him, but we are losing him more than we really want to. So I want to thank you, Bruce. You have done a fabulous job. So. And the last person, actually this, is Rob. We have a treasurer. Now, I can't say that let's just say Tony inherited a much better set of records than Rob did. Not to disparage the former treasurer, but there was some technological advancements that had not quite been implemented. And Rob did it for us, and he really brought us up to the 21st century. He has moved to some place that is not really convenient to coming and staying involved, but he came tonight, and we also have a present for him because we want to thank him for all the excellent work that he did for the years that he was the treasurer of the Trails Council. Now, I have to confess, is Mary Ann here? Oh, okay, well, then I'm not going to do, we have in the newsletter, we have a volunteer spotlight because Mary Ann has done just a wonderful job for us. And I was hoping to actually introduce her and show her off to all you people, but since she's not here, I am going to step aside and I'm going to turn this over to Laura. As I said, she's the one who does all the work. I just stand here and do the wave. So, Laura, it's yours.
Thanks, Barb. So I'm kind of out of order here now. As Barb said, I'm Laura Rosado, I'm Vice President of the Trails Council, and it's great to be here in person. I know the weather has not been great this evening, so thank you for coming out. As you know, many of you know, throughout the year we have continued to have our board meetings monthly. We've been holding them via Zoom, but we are holding our in-person meetings when we can. And of course, we continue to talk about our mission of connecting towns and talking with towns regarding issues and repairs and maintenance. We've also had a table all this past season at the Collinsville Farmers Market on Sundays where we've been able to pass out educational materials and answer questions for the people that have stopped to talk to us. Some of you, I think, were with us on National Trails Day back in June, which seems so long ago now. And of course, we partnered once again back in August with the Canton Fire Department when they had their Lobster Fest event, and we are now hosting a bicycle ride event on that same day. Bruce, Barb has done her thing, so in just a minute I'm going to have Bruce come up. He is the Southern New England manager for the East Coast Greenway, which is his correct title. On the program, I apologize. But he's going to give us an update of the trails. And then finally, we're going to hear from our guest speakers this evening, Shan Riggs and Josh Grant, who have completed a journey on the East Coast Greenway, all the way from Florida up to Maine. We do want to honor all of our volunteers. Of course, as you know, we have so many volunteers, and in the program that you received when you walked in, you can see who they are. And we are always looking for more volunteers and assistance because these rides and these other events that we do through the season really couldn't happen without you, and just making us aware of things that are happening out on the trail. We are always in need of new volunteers and board members. Currently, we're always welcome to volunteers and representatives from all towns, but we are currently looking for people to represent the town of Avon and Bloomfield and the towns you see listed here to join us on the board and just to be that liaison between the town and the board. We are currently looking for a volunteer coordinator to assist me in planning events and soliciting, reaching out for volunteers as we need them. We also want to acknowledge our bicycle-friendly town partners. We have a lot of advocates. Some of them are here tonight from Bike Walk Avon, Canton, Farmington, and our Simsbury Bike Ped Advisory. They work hard within their towns to continue to promote everything that we are all the goals we're all working towards. So thank you to you as well.
Just a couple things before I actually get to what I know you really want to hear about, which is projects. Ride the State this year was, as usual, end of June. It was a phenomenal success, 154 riders. Steve Mitchell was active in that ride. And also Pete Solomon is here. He led the ride off. And I want to thank everybody involved. That includes this organization, Farmington Canal Rail to Trail Association, and Whole Foods bought the lunch for everybody. So it was a big deal. So next. Lots of words, but the words don't matter so much other than if you want to read them while I'm talking. But essentially, Kim Bradley there is taking over for the former DEEP Director of State Parks, Greenways and Trails Program, Lori Giannotti. Some of you may have worked with her in the past. So she's basically brand new. She started this summer. In conjunction with that, I think many of you know that I am the appointed chairman of the Connecticut Greenways Council, which means, among other things, I vet the Connecticut Rec Trails program along with my 10 other people on that legislatively appointed committee. And essentially, we're going to be giving out, starting in a month or so, $9 million for 2023. First time we've ever had that much money. Last year was $3 million. And I just want you to be aware that the RFP for that is going to go out, literally the next couple weeks. My understanding is that the actual application itself is on Commissioner Dyke's desk right now as we speak. So that is really good news. Next one. Connecticut Greenways Plate Program. I saw a couple as I drove in. I've got one. If you owned a Connecticut Greenways plate, you've been a long-suffering, basically gullible, like me, person, because of course the money was not going to the Greenways. It was being flushed right into the general fund, and that was done on the sly about, I want to say 12 years ago. Not this year, but the year before. We got legislation passed so that the Greenways plate money now actually goes to the Greenways Fund, which is also administered by the Connecticut Greenways Council, which I also chair. So keep in mind that sometime in 2023, there will be a small grants program that you can come to us, in other words, me, so just chat me up. And we can shoot you a little bit of money if you're doing something. For instance, there's a couple of brand new organizations in the state. We're paying for their 501c3 formation, just to give you an idea of some things that we can do with that money. Other things, the Connecticut Trail Learning Committee. Again, I mentioned the aforementioned Kim Bradley is hosting that. I am speaking at that. That's a monthly kind of Zoom call for interested people that are working in trails across the state. Each time we have one of those meetings, and we just set this up this summer, we talk about something different. So it could be funding, it could be design specifications, it could be all sorts of different things. So if you want to be involved in that, get in touch with Kim or just ask me for a card and I'll make sure that you get on that list. CROG's Greater Hartford Gap Study is literally finally just starting. It was supposed to start this summer. It was delayed. I won't go into the making of the sausage, but it is finally going to start. So FHI is the lead. VHB is their sub. That project will commence like basically right now, is my understanding, and go all the way through next year to design the remaining pieces of Terrafill, that's Terrafill 3, Bloomfield, probably 3, well, Bloomfield 2 definitely, and it could be 3, it could even be 4. There might be as many as 4 sections of Bloomfield, Western Hartford, and East Hartford. So it's a big project. That's DOT money, $560,000, that study. A new 5-year SCORP plan is happening at DEEP. It's every 5 years. I've been on the last 2, so the last, 12 years, I guess, or something like that. Basically what it is it's going through all of the state park outdoor recreation facilities in the entire state, seeing who uses them, seeing what's needed in the state, and then that is reported then to the federal parks and allows the state of Connecticut to get federal funding back for state parks. So you basically have to do this every 5 years. So if you have any questions about that, see me on that. I'm on that board too. Another board I'm on, the Seven-Town Hot River Trail Alliance. By the way, you're wondering why I went off this board? So just so you know, yeah. This one's brand new, and basically those 7 towns are the 7 towns that the Hot River State Park Trail run through. So all the way from Manchester out to Andover, I think. Yeah, Manchester to Andover. And then a brand new Fairfield County bike partnership started by Stamford and Greenwich. And in fact, they have confirmed a new on-road route of the East Coast Greenway, which is going to be signed over the winter, that reflects Stamford in particular, but also Greenwich into Old Greenwich, having created a lot of new bike lane and in some cases off-road park facilities through the city of Stamford and the town of Greenwich. And finally, East Hartford. I'm going to talk a little bit more about East Hartford, but Mayor Mike in East Hartford is something of a character, but I'll tell you, he knows how to bend people's arms. So the new developer of Rensselaer Field, so as many of you are aware, Raytheon bought Pratt & Whitney. In the purchase of Pratt & Whitney, it was decided that the huge aerodrome facility that was in back of Pratt & Whitney is no longer going to be used. It's going to be sold off for private development. And that developer, in conjunction with the town of East Hartford, has agreed to pay the town of East Hartford for the subsequent construction of the new East Coast Greenway in East Hartford, a minimum of $1 million in cash. First time I've ever heard of that in the state. So these kind of public-private partnership things happen a lot. I think many of you know I do some business in New Jersey and New York. I see that in New Jersey and New York. It's the first time I've seen anything this large in Connecticut, so it's pretty impressive. So I wanted you to all know about it because it was new for me. Next one. And some friends. If you want to know trail counts, that's the trail census. Both of those first two are out of Yukon. I think many of you are aware they're out of Yukon. The Trail Finder, if you haven't looked at it, please do. It's got over 200 trails on it now. It's basically still in beta, but it's one of the things that the Recreational Trails grants have funded over the last 2 years very successfully. So check it out. It's really interesting. It's got, and this trail's on it, of course, and many others. A relatively new organization, which I'm the secretary of, the Connecticut Outdoor Recreation Association. I know, everyone's laughing. Transport Hartford Academy. I am emceeing one of the events at that. Their summit is virtual this year. It is the 21st. That's a Monday. And then Bike Walk Connecticut. I always try to chat them up. And obviously there's a lot more of folks.
On the website for Farmington Valley Trails Council, those friends of note?
I think most of them are. I'll tell you what, you know what might not be on there is Trail Finder because it's so new. In fact, Joy, where's Joy? We'll make sure. Yeah, remind me. Because that, the Trail Finder in particular, that is new this year. Okay, next. Okay. More little words, but I wanted to show you what's going on in Connecticut right now. In particular, you will note the dramatic amount of progress from New Haven north and then east. You will note the remarkable amount of non-progress to the west. That is the Merritt Parkway Trail. The much lamented $1.5 million design study by DOT that was never published. And it is really, as we speak right now, not in play. Even though the East Coast Greenway, that's me, is saying that that's where it's going to go, where the East Coast Greenway is going to go. Could it potentially, pieces of it be built in the future? Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot. I've been working on it for a long time. But I will tell you this. I spoke about that new Fairfield County organization that has most now of the towns all the way out almost to West Haven, working on-road connected bike paths, park paths. And so there's going to be an expanded on-road route of the East Coast Greenway. There already is one down there, but it's mostly on-road, as many of you know, because many of you have been on it. I certainly have. It's going to be new and improved over the next few years. So I bring that up because I'm also working on a project. Many of you are aware that New York State spent $230 million over the last 5 years building the Empire State Trail, which, if you've been on pieces of it, is fabulous. Parts of it aren't, because parts of it are still kind of on-road. But honestly, they did a fantastic job. What they did was they built out from where our trail in Manhattan goes north into Westchester County, and I won't bore you with the various routes, but a good decent part of that is the Bronx River Greenway, going basically northeast this way. Then you've got completely built to Brewster, New York, the Empire State Trail, completely built, which is 3.5 miles as the crow flies from Danbury. So last year, we gave Danbury a $50,000 initial feasibility study project money, which they're working on right now as we speak. Many of you may not be aware, but there is a piece of that trail along the old Housatonic Railroad corridor that is built right next to 84. The next time you go over the Connecticut border, I would not advise you to stop there. But if you have a passenger, have them look over the side. There's a piece of trail there that New York State built, literally right to the Connecticut border. That's what we're trying to hook up with and go all the way through Danbury. If that happens, the Housatonic River corridor goes into play. Suddenly, you've got some major connectivity from Westchester County for the first time. So we will see where that goes. But I wanted to bring it up because that's kind of new. And then, of course, you've got New Haven Phase 4. I would be remiss if I didn't call to your attention Aaron Good, who's here. Raise your hand. There he is. He is all things New Haven. So if you have a question about this project, I do have a slide after this talking about the project. But essentially, as many of you are aware, it's right around 1.5 miles. It's a tunnel or submerged, open submerged, from essentially the Yale campus to Orange Street. And I've got the map. I'll show you in a minute. And then it's a bicycle facility on Water Street, hooking up with the existing cycle track going down to the shore. In the middle is what has been at issue. That was cut out of this project because it was deemed too expensive for the federal funds that were going to be used. So the project itself, just a shade under $10 million, without, it turns out, Olive Street, which is where the project was originally going to go. It is now going to go on the east side of State Street, and the city's going to build it. It is going to be a two-way cycle track, similar to, and I've got a picture of what they just finished and painted on Water Street. But Aaron, do you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, the main liability with the Phase 4, is, as Bruce well knows, was the section along Olive Street.
Totally.
It's basically going to be a sharrow.
Yep.
On a very narrow, high traffic street. So this plan, which the city has just announced in the last 6 weeks, for a completely protected cycle track on the east side of State Street, it's really a visionary plan. It's basically what we've been asking the city to do for 10 or 15 years. So it's a huge improvement. very excited about it.
Yep, it's really pretty fantastic, and it's, by the way, indicative of a city that has a lot of outstanding bicycle facilities already, but New Haven really stepped up. It really is impressive. So many of you are aware that that there has been a bit of a slide in terms of Plainville and Southington. And I've got some slides, so I won't go too far there. I've talked about the Hartford Gap study. I haven't talked about the Hop River Trail in Andover. That construction will start next year. That is the bridge. That is the last piece of the Hop River that isn't built. It's about a mile, and it's basically one big bridge that goes into Willimantic. And that's interesting because it keeps getting more expensive every time I look at you. It's now a ridiculous amount of money. And I'll just give you a brief idea of what it's like to try to build these facilities. Now what they're going to do, apparently, is they're going to build a bridge next to the old bridge. They're going to use the new bridge to take the old bridge down. Then they're going to use the new bridge to build the new bridge. Then they're going to take the new old bridge down. No, seriously, you can't make this up. It's going to cost a godly, just ridiculous amount of money. I'm not even going to tell you because you'll just be pissed. So, yeah. Airline State Park Trail in Putnam, that's in design right now. That's a Weston and Sampson design. Should be done, actually, as we speak right now, hopefully to go to bid next year. And then the big Killingley Phase 4 and 5 is in design. That's the north-south trail there in orange. And then the Moosup Valley State Park Trail is going to go to construction next year, 5.5 miles, and goes right up to and half a mile into the Rhode Island border and hooks up with the Trestle Trail. The Trestle Trail, Rhode Island DOT finally put the Trestle Trail on the 2024 STIP for Federal Transportation Enhancement Act money. That project, going all the way, basically you're going to be able to go all the way into Providence, should be done in 3 years.
So that's going to be an interesting transition going from how we ride here to the rules of the trail in Rhode Island, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, if many of you are aware, they've got different rules.
They're British.
Well, no, they're Rhode Islanders. And I'm there a lot, but it is a funky way to do things, for sure. And so the paint's different, the signs are different, so just beware. If a bicycle cop stops you, then you're going to have to try to weasel your way out of whatever the hell you just did. Okay, next one. That's okay. Did it freeze up? See, I was speaking too long. This is what the problem. Aha. All right, I won't belabor this, but this is, you probably didn't expect to see this slide, did you? So that purple line above the thick blue line is the Merritt Parkway Trail. The light purple line is the end of the Hutch, which also isn't built. And I talked to New York State DOT Region 8. They have no plans to build the end of the Hutch. So it's really currently kind of dead in the water. And that's why I brought up the on-road route, which is the thick blue line. And then you see the thick green line, that's the Empire State Trail. And it's done. So you see Danbury up there. You see that blue, yellow line, that's the old abandoned railroad corridor. And we think we have a good chance of purchasing part of it, and partly because of the new legislative activity of last year, maybe even having some rail with trail in the state. We'll see. Next. There we are. So this, I'm bringing this up because this is the current route. So in that blue-purple, is the on-road route. Everything else is completed. One of the things you'll note is that when Terrafill 1 gets completed along 189, we are going to sign the East Coast Greenway back through the center of Simsbury and through Terrafill and through Bloomfield, where it used to be signed, I think, 18 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, because 189 was deemed by DOT as a divided highway, and we couldn't have the East Coast Greenway there until we have the new Terrafill trail, which should be complete next fall. So stay tuned for the East Coast Greenway to go in a different path in Farmington Valley next year, hopefully.
It's all a work in progress right now.
It is, yeah. I think I put a slide in. Next. Yep. So that's where it's going. So Terrafill 1 is in yellow on the right. Terrafill 2 is Route 315 down to Curtis Park, and then Terrafill 3 is something of a question mark. However, the town of Simsbury, and huge kudos to the town of Simsbury, basically put a line item in their budget of $300,000 to do a full design study of that last piece of Terrafill. So that's going to start relatively soon, along with, of course, the background of that CROG study I talked about. So this is going to get designed to the nth degree. By the way, it needs to be designed to the nth degree because there are a lot of people coming out of the woodwork about whether this should go alongside the river. There are a lot of people that say it shouldn't. There are, as all of you are aware, a pretty serious geological issue, which is essentially there's a mountain in between those two parts. So if you're not going along the river, what are you doing, right? There's Governor's Bridge, which is the big condo development. So anyway, stay tuned. That's going to be interesting to see what that design is. Next slide. And there's Terrafill 1. And that picture on the left, Steve took what, last week? Yep.
Last week.
So they have started grubbing. Now, one of the things you will see, that's 189. One of the things you will see if you're lucky enough or not lucky enough, they're actually going to have to blast that rock face out because it's too close to the road. So they'll be blasting, I think, fairly soon, the last I heard. And they use those big steel mats, and they drill TNT in and blow a piece of the face off, take it away, and just keep going.
They were working on it today.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're working on it right now. Not blasting it, but they're all ready to blast.
Yeah, I would think they'd be pretty close. Okay, next. Here's New Haven Phase 4. We don't need to belabor this, but you'll see in the middle of it where it was going to be to the right, it's now west on the east side. And this is my old one, okay. See, it's not Olive Street. I updated this slide and I should have sent you the new one. But it is in fact a state, and it's going to be more like, I heard 3 million. Is that, did the city give a number?
Between 3 and 5.
That's, yeah. But it's going to literally be off-road. So, a much, much, much better facility than what was planned on Olive Street. Next. Southington. Everyone's asking about Southington. Southington was going to be just Southington 3, 2.35 miles. It's now going to be Southington 3 and 4. So Lazy Lane to Aircraft Road, 1.27 miles, is going to go to bid next month, which is fantastic news, except that the rest of it isn't going to bid because of Yard Metal's suit against the state. Yard Metals does not want the trail to go across their property. They're very adamant about it. If the old guy and his son still owned it, then I don't think this would be an issue, but it's owned by now a multinational, and apparently they want to hold this up. In the process of holding this up, they're holding everything else in the state up because the Connecticut Attorney General's office was filed against, and some bright bulb in the AG's office decided that in looking at the existing legislation out there, perhaps DOT doesn't have the right to acquire right-of-ways for bike trails. Now, this is new for me because they've been doing it for the last 35 years. So that's what's happening right now. So basically, Plainville has been shut down, and a bunch of other trails across the state have been shut down because DOT can't acquire right-of-ways as it stands right now. So every single one of you in this room will be getting an email from me at some point to weigh in on DOT's omnibus legislation for next year. As you're aware, it's a long legislative session this coming year. They'll sit whenever they do. I don't think they've given a date yet. It's usually February. And within that omnibus legislation will be a piece of enabling legislation that will allow, in writing, Connecticut DOT and DEEP to be able to acquire right-of-ways for bicycle and pedestrian projects. It's ridiculous, but that's what's going to have to happen. Here's Plainville 1. I know many of you have seen this. Really, the only reason why, well, there's two interesting things about this. The first one is that there's about 300 feet of boardwalk, which is really the only major expense. There's two small bridges, and then you're going into Norton Park. The cool thing about this is, it doesn't show it on here, but up Town Line Road and to the west, DOT has acquired a piece of property that will be a very large parking lot, which is excellent news. So both sides of this will have a parking lot. Obviously, there's parking at Norton Park. And then the other key issue about this, and it's relatively rare across the entire state, this whole piece, that yellow piece you see there, is being built on the original historical towpath of the canal. There's very few pieces that are even touch that, because the railroad mostly wasn't built on it, or if it was built on it, they destroyed it. So, but this is pristine. This is, the canal's right next to it, still exists. It's still there. So that's that project. Delayed. Next one. Here's Plainville 2. Now, you probably have not seen this. This literally has been finished in the last couple of months. What you see is, you see Robertson Airport. So just to the right of that is where the current trailhead ends, coming in from Farmington on Northwest Drive. So they're going to rebuild the facility on Northwest Drive, go around Perrin Road, and talk about a corporation that bent over backwards to help the state, Carling Industries, in, I think, less than a month, made a deal for the right-of-way for the trail to go on their property. Goes through Tomaso Nature Park, goes around Plainville Public Works, and underneath Route 72, they're going to build a tunnel under 72. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And you see to the north of 72, a connector trail to another enormous parking lot that will have bathrooms and other facilities. So neat project. Still not getting built anytime soon. It's even funded. Still not getting built.
Yard metal?
Yeah.
All because of yard metal.
Yep. And I think that's my last slide on this roll. Let's see, what's that one down there? I think that's, yeah, see, I never finished that. So that's getting in touch with me. It's bruce@greenway.org. Most of you have my phone number, but I'm easily findable. So thank you all. Are there any questions?
Laura said, my name's Shan Riggs. I'm an ultra marathon runner. I run a lot of really long distance races, 100-mile races, 24-hour races, things like that. My day job, I'm a sponsorship marketing and fundraising consultant. And over the years, I've combined my interest to do extremely long, multi-day, multi-week, and sometimes multi-month expeditions to raise money and awareness for a variety of charities. For example, I once ran from Chicago to Indianapolis, 200 miles nonstop for Medals for Metal. There was a group of us that ran the length of Illinois in a week for a variety of running charities within Illinois. I did a 2-day expedition across Panama for a local school there. Last year, ran a 1,000-mile relay in Australia to raise money for youth mental health services in Australia. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, I didn't have much work, so I took the opportunity to run from San Francisco to Connecticut and did it as a fundraiser for Food Share. So that was about 3,000 miles, which is actually similar to the distance of the East Coast Greenway. So a lot of people don't realize that when you connect those trails, going from Key West to Canada is about the same distance as going from San Francisco to New York. So if you want to. So, I thought there was another slide. But anyway, so as I said, so this is Josh and myself. That's the trailer that Josh towed with all of our gear while she worked full time. Exactly. So she's going to come up in a little bit to explain how that worked. But we've got a little video here that tells a little bit of our story.
There's a lot of inputs. Give me a second here. There we go.
Cambridge is logging thousands of miles running from the Florida Keys, heading all the way up the East Coast Greenway to the Canadian border in Maine.
Rick began his journey on April 16th in Key West, Florida, with the goal of running 40 miles a day.
The ultramarathon runner from Connecticut is on a mission to be the first known runner to make it across the entire East Coast Greenway.
I don't want to drive 2,000 miles.
I often get asked, why are we doing this and kind of what's the point? And one, obviously, we wanted to support the Greenway and the Alliance and their mission. But what prompted it, we just wanted to see if it's something we can do. If we're physically capable of doing something like this. You know, how can you do something like this? And, you know, how do you get up day after day, 40 miles a day, every day for almost 3 months? And I always tell everybody that it just takes practice and the body can get used to anything. And that's true. I'm not just making that up. After a while, your body will pretty much get used to anything.
Well, we got into, I guess, sort of a routine, figuring out a few days ahead of time how many miles we might go each day, sort of based on where we would stay. Sometimes we had people reach out to us and offer their guest room. Other times we looked for motels. But that certainly was one of the most challenging parts of the trip, was the planning.
There's the overarching, it's just hard every day, and it's that encompassing, trying not to think of all of it all at once, right? It just gets overwhelming. We'd wake up 4:30 in the morning, try to get on the road 5:30. Every day was somewhere between 30 and 50 miles, on an average around 40. Josh would follow behind, not too far, and usually around 15 to 20 miles we'd eat breakfast. So that was typically around 9 a.m. or so. A lot of diner food, a lot of huge double meal diner food, and then from there, kind of another 15-ish miles, maybe grab a sandwich somewhere. And during the week, Josh is usually somewhere trying to find a place to work and take meetings and things like that. And I would try to finish the day if it was a weekend, and Josh was riding her bike nearby. And we'd kind of do it that way and finish lunch, 3 o'clock, and then try to rest, find a huge meal. It'll be nice to get back home and have a salad instead of the whatever we could grab on the road kind of food for forever.
And so all of the people who we met who were really passionate about the trails, it just kind of showed that everybody uses these trails, and it's really important to kind of maintain them and to connect as many of them as we can, which is exactly what the East Coast Greenway is all about. Being on it and seeing firsthand was just really kind of a highlight, I guess, of the trip.
My favorite just part of the whole thing was all the people that came out and supported us, ran with us, biked with us, donated to the Alliance, gave us a place to stay, and it was just one after another. Like every single day there were strangers and people we just met. I mean, Josh and I were trying to reminisce on all the people we met, and it's going to be impossible to try to thank everybody.
Most of the lows were related to the conditions that I had to deal with the bike and the trailer. So sandy roads, there were a couple of trails that were a bit challenging. There were a few rainy days that were kind of a challenge too, but there weren't too many tough times, so it was pretty easy to just kind of keep pushing through because all the rest of it was actually really fun.
And then there was one specific difficult moment that was just 2-3 days ago. The Down East Sunrise Trail in Maine, first 10 miles of that, I hadn't put bug spray on, and that was a huge mistake. And I was just getting completely tormented by flies and mosquitoes, and unfortunately I also had to go to the bathroom in the woods, and so I'm sweating and I'm trying to go really quick, and then I'm throwing my pants down, and I grab a tree, and as I'm going, I lean back and the tree breaks off. It falls on top of me, and I'm getting bare-ass eaten by mosquitoes. Oh my God, I want to clean myself up. It was just so, and I called Josh in a crying fit, like, oh my God, I'm just, She thought a tree had fallen on me, like, an angel. She brought bug spray to help a lot. Something that lasts 78 days it's hard to wrap your head around. If my 23-year-old self could have seen what my 43-year-old self was doing, it would just be mind-blowing.
Did you expect Santa to come with a question?
No, I did not. I especially didn't expect him to go down on a knee. You know, he'd have to get back up again.
So it's exceptional to be able to be fortunate to have a body that could do it and be able to have the time and have a partner like Josh who wants to do these crazy things. and so it's kind of, whoa. And hello. All right. I want to thank Mary Beth Page from the Greenway Alliance for putting that video together too. So we thought we'd share with you some pictures of the trails that we took. This is the 7-mile bridge in Florida, which is exactly what it says. It's a 7-mile bridge, which is really beautiful, but also a little bit scary with that narrow shoulder and no place to go but into the ocean. But that was a lot of fun.
I got a flat tire halfway across that.
And then I ran it.
That was challenging.
And we ran into Steve in Florida, and then again in Connecticut. So he's all over the place. Go ahead. So the East Coast Greenway is 3,000 miles, but only about 1,000 of it are protected trails currently. The rest of it is a wide variety of roads. So there is a lot of really nice roads, like the one you see on the left there. I think that's in Virginia. And obviously some nice protected trails, both in rural areas and in cities. But there's also some spots like this. So we went across unfinished railroad trestles, big mounds of dirt, which had to be a lot of fun to take the trailer through there. Beautiful, but kind of rough scenery there on the bottom left. And then the dreaded rumble strips and narrow road on Route 17 in South Carolina. It was actually easier for me as a runner because I could fit on the strip. And I could also, if I saw traffic coming at me, step off of it. Josh had to tow and pray. Go ahead. So we often get asked what our favorite trails were or what our favorite part was. There were definitely some iconic moments like running down the mall in Washington, D.C. That was extraordinary. The Greenway goes right through there. The Greenway Trail through Manhattan goes right off on the west side of Manhattan, and that's pretty stunning. And actually, once you get through Trenton, New Jersey, and the, what's the name of that? The DNR Canal Trail is really pretty. But as far as a whole state goes, Connecticut has to be the winner. So, and I'm not just saying that because of this crowd, but as you saw what Bruce was talking about, it's the only state, as far as I know, where most of the state. Well, first off, can you go to the next one? First off, there's almost 200 miles of East Coast Greenway Trail in Connecticut, and for a state that's 100 miles wide, that's extraordinary. And as soon as you get past New Haven, it's almost completely trails, and there was nothing like that at all. And they're protected trails, and they're beautiful. And of course, we also had a lot of support from people. We met Steve in Simsbury, who took us on a 5-mile longer route than we expected that day. But we still had a lot of fun. And we also had the Hartford Marathon Foundation came out and set up an event in Hartford where a lot of people came out and met us. Local press came out and met us as well. And now, logistics are next, I think. Right, so I'm going to turn it over to the master of spreadsheets, Josh Grant, who's going to talk a little bit about how she managed on getting us through all this stuff.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Can hear me? Okay, so so here is a picture of us in the backyard with the trailer, which I'll talk a little bit about, and people it was a really good conversation starter, so anytime someone saw me with the trailer, they wanted to know where we were going, closer to my mouth, okay, and what's inside of it. So what are you carrying? So that's one of the real popular questions. What did you bring? How did you carry it? So here's a picture of all of our things that we brought with us, and you can see there's, first of all, the bike in the picture did not make it to the East Coast Greenway. This was a last-minute change. I had some technical issues, which I won't get into, but we did end up having to switch out bikes, so I ended up riding a Cannondale. So you can see the list here shows the riding and running gear. So I had road bike and the Radical Design Cyclone trailer, which is an aluminum frame 80-liter trailer that I was able to just tow behind the bikes, really easy to use. But cycling shoes, helmets, of course, 2 pairs of running shoes at a time. Shan went through a few more pairs than that. And exoskin socks, which saved his feet and toes. Camping stuff. So we did bring camping stuff, anticipating that we would be camping along the way. We camped on the 3rd night in Key Largo. It rained. It was not very comfortable, but we still brought the camping gear with us, thinking we might find campgrounds along the way. It turned out by the time we got to North Carolina, it wasn't going to happen. There's just the campgrounds weren't as accessible to the East Coast Greenway Trail route as we had anticipated, and we knew we were going to be getting closer to more support, more rural area, more urban areas where we could find lodging. So we ended up actually shipping some of it back home. But we did have really nice camping stuff. Lightweight gear, was very small, compact, so we could fit everything into the trailer. We brought a little cook set and a camp stove, and of course, coffee, which kind of kept me going in the morning. For personal stuff, so we carried as little as we could, but we also didn't want to have to do laundry every single day, so we brought 4 outfits to wear for running and biking, and we each had our toiletries and our critical anti-chafing items, so two Toms, some kind of ointment, roll-on stuff that keeps you from chafing, Band-Aids, and chamois butter. We had 1 extra outfit that we wore for a few hours every night after running and biking. We brought rain gear. I think maybe two or 3 days. We had really bad rain that warranted me wearing rain gear at least, but for the rest of the time, not so much. We had puffy jackets in case it got cold, which it did not. We didn't even use them. And then, of course, the technical stuff, lights, in case we needed it. I used a Garmin computer, and Shan had the Sunto watch to track his mileage. And then work stuff, I worked full-time. I forgot to introduce myself, actually. So Josh Grant. So I work as a consultant, so a remote position where I can work from wherever. Most of my work involves sitting in meetings and doing slides. So as long as I have my computer, I can work from anywhere. So I brought my laptop, we had some power banks, and I had a mobile hotspot, which I didn't need all that much. There's really great service all along the route that we were on. So the great thing is everything fit in the trailer. There was still some room for other important items like a bottle of wine or some beer sometimes, but it turned out really well. And then, so how did we plan everything? And, actually, I did want to mention, before packing all of this stuff, we did a trip on the Erie Canalway Trail, which was 9 days, 400 miles, just to kind of test out this whole concept of me biking and supporting and Shan running. And so we brought what we thought we would need and did a survey afterwards. What did we use? What did we need? What didn't we need? You know, and that's how we ended up with this really small list, which I think there was the only thing we didn't use was puffy jackets, and it wasn't something you'd want to leave at home. So. So then as far as planning ahead of time, so this is just a screenshot from the Greenway interactive map that they have, which is amazing. So we're able to use this ahead of time to kind of map out distances between major cities, and then we used it every single day to follow our route each day. So you can map the start and end location. You can download a GPX file for each segment that you're doing. Those little red dots on the map are hazards. So if there's a section where there's no shoulder on the road, or there's construction or trails being rerouted, we kind of knew ahead of time, so it was really helpful to have that. My spreadsheet. So this is kind of the life of the planning ahead of time using the Greenway map. I created the spreadsheet that's interactive. So we put in major cities to kind of map out where we would be, and based on different pace that Shan might be running, give us an estimate of, say, okay, we're going to leave Key West on the 16th of April. When would we get to Charleston? We might know someone there, and so we could give them a ballpark idea of when we're going to get there. The other thing that was important for us, the East Coast Greenway Alliance did a lot of outreach to the different major cities that we were going through to see first if we could get some support from people, if we could find a place to stay or have someone put us up in their guest room, and also to connect us with press, local news outlets. So this was really helpful to say, okay, well, you could start contacting people in Raleigh, you know, around the state, because we'll probably be there, you know, in the middle of May or whatever. So I think that's everything on that one. And then another part of the spreadsheet was the day-to-day. So I mentioned the video. We didn't plan everything out very far in advance because there were so many different variables that could change when we would arrive at different places. So 1 to 3 days in advance, we would map out, like, how are you feeling, Shan? How many miles do you think you could go? Where's the next place that we could possibly stay? There were a couple of times where there were really long stretches where you had to kind of push the distance. Other times we would just, kind of, someone may be offering us a place to stay, so let's work around that. And so it was a lot of juggling of things. We were contacted by quite a few people that had heard a podcast that Shan was on, knew that he was doing this run, people that heard about it from the East Coast Greenway newsletters or sending out emails or local groups, whatever. And so they would go in the spreadsheet. So, hey, I'm in Richmond. When you get here, look me up. So I put them in the spreadsheet so that we would know how to plan once we got to that part of the trail.
That was about half.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yeah.
Found people in half the night.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a lot more than we had anticipated. It was really, and it just kind of grew. So the more press and the more word got out that this guy was doing this crazy thing, the more people were reaching out to us. So the closer we got to home, the more support we had for that kind of thing. And then, so I worked full time while doing this. I mentioned I'm mostly working online. So you can see here just a few shots of some of the spots that I found a quiet corner to log on to a Zoom call or to review slides or whatever it happened to be. There were other times where Shan found me one time I pulled off and was kind of wandering around in a swamp because it was very quiet down there, and stopped at cemeteries or churches, wherever I could get just a quiet bench to sit on. So my employers are very obviously supportive of this, and if it wasn't for just all of those things lining up, I don't know if this could have happened. But here's some examples of where I was working. And then I'll hand it to you.
Yeah. So we've got another video in just a second here. So another thing we get asked about a lot is the wildlife. So, and even though it's the most urban corridor in the United States, you still do run into quite a bit of critters. So I saw a dolphin, we saw alligators in Georgia, bald eagles in every state, which is fantastic considering when I was a kid, there was only bald eagles in Alaska. There was dogs, which were sometimes a problem. Got in a fight with a small pack of dogs one day. Ran into all these guys. And then probably the scariest encounter, we have a clip where I'm talking about it. Let's switch the audio over.
Every bend in the road, there's always some kind of unexpected adventure, right? We understand that you had an issue with a rooster?
Yeah. I'm worried about watching out for cars and dogs. I hadn't considered roosters. I didn't have much empathy for maybe having them on. It was scary, weirdly, and a little embarrassing, but okay.
Every bend in the road.
It really was quite scary. They got claws. So here's the final statistics. So we went 15 states, 450 communities, officially 77 days and 7 hours. It's a official FKT, fastest known time. We raised a little over $17,000. And really the media reach was quite extraordinary from anything I've ever done before. With the support of the Greenway, we were able to be in just about every news outlet. When we went through town, would come out, at least the local TV, if not 2 or 3 local TV stations. We also had some national media like the Weather Channel and USA Today. The media was critical for East Coast Greenway Alliance because, as most of you know, the politics of getting these things built is important. So you really need to have the community behind it. You really need to have the politicians behind it. And so just getting the word out about the good things that people have in their backyards and the work that still needs to be done was a really important message. So total, the official mileage, I ran 2,960 miles, averaged 39 miles a day. We stopped for 2 rest days, went through 6 pairs of socks, 6 pairs of shoes, 6 pairs of exoskin socks. Do you want me to talk about this part? So Josh biked a little bit longer than me. She had a couple really long days. Mostly because of the wrong turns. Actually, surprisingly, only 1 flat tire out of 3,000 miles, which is incredible. Capic One, which is a sponsor of ours, supported 6 pounds of coffee, which was critical, especially for Josh. And then, as you saw, we had 1 proposal. She said yes. And we actually got married on October 1st in our backyard in Southbury. Thank you. And instead of rings, we got matching tattoos the day before our wedding. If you can't see, that's the map of the East Coast Greenway with the route. And yeah, so that is about it, right? Yeah, so eastcoastgreenwayexpedition.com, you can find all our contact information. Josh wrote a blog along the way. We have tons of social media. We posted daily. We'll probably be talking about what we're doing next there at some point. We're trying to figure that out. So I'll stop there and see what questions people have.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.